Hey folks, and welcome to episode 27 of Eonin's Edge. Today I'm going to be reviewing one of my Benchmade Bugouts after upgrading the scales to the Applied Weapons Technology AWT Archons. So let's jump in with some basic specs on the knife. This is a gray-coated S30V blade. It's a drop point, high flat grind. Very thin blade stock profile, as most of you who've handled a Bugout know. The AWT scales that I've replaced the stock ones with are made out of aircraft quality aluminum, and the ones I chose are in an FDE coating. The knife has 3.1 inches of usable fine cutting edge. It does have a sharpening choil on it. There is 4 3/8 inches of scale length here for you to hold on to. Tip to tail, the knife is 7.5 inches. And the weight of this knife, the way that it sets right now, is 2.49 ounces. So just a tick under 2.5. I should also note, I have it here for comparison, the standard Bugout that comes with the plastic Grivery scales. Same knife, different colorway. This knife weighs on my scale 1.87 ounces. So there is a little more than a half an ounce of difference in weight. But again, 2.49, 2.5 ounces, still super light. So let's talk about what I like. So stock out of the box, the basic Bugout, and this is one of the common example of that, with the Grivery scales. It's a solid knife, and it's designed to be lightweight and be good at cutting and slicing for a lot of basic tasks. And in this form, the knife checks those boxes. It is lightweight. It does have a good blade design. It does have decent steel. It is good. It is very slicey. It does a lot of things right. But for many of us, the scales, they just feel off or odd in your hand. So enter Applied Weapons Technology. They basically are based out of Texas. They make this product in the United States. They offer a wide variety of custom scale options and colors for the Bugout and the mini Bugout. I chose the Archons. That is this design. It has this kind of scalloped texture to it. Let's see if we can get the camera to, there we go. So it has this scalloped texture, and they put some extra jimping on the back of the knife up here, which is great. I like that. It also feels a little longer in the back because it's not squared off right here and then kind of tapered. And it's just a really nice scale. So these scales, they transform this knife. Really, honestly, they transform this knife. It changes the ergos of the knife. It just feels better in your hand. There's texturing on both sides. The knife just feels more positive and more solid. I talk about balance a lot. The stock Bugout is very blade heavy. It doesn't have great balance. This knife has the balance right behind the pivot right here, right in this area. So that's almost a perfect spot for this normal saber type grip or a hammer type grip that you hold here. The knife feels so much better in your hand, so much more balanced than it does in the stock configuration. So that's a win if you own a Bugout and you're not happy with the ergonomics or the general feel of the stock scales. The other thing that I really like is the fact that even though these type of scales, these Grivery scales, have been shown in several torture tests, Zach's took this same exact model blue Bugout knife like this and ran it over in a car and dropped it out of the top of a window of a house and did a whole bunch of other battened with it, did a whole bunch of other stuff. And the Grivery didn't break, but it's super easy to get it to flex and push together. And it just doesn't feel very intuitive in your hand. It has the plastic has kind of sharp edges, which, yeah, you could sand or file those off. But again, the way this knife sets, it comes in at around 125, 130 bucks, depending on where you buy it. And, that's a fair amount of money for a knife this size. And then, you get these kind of lackluster scales on it. Some people might think these are great, but I know a lot of people don't. I'm in that camp. I'm included in that group of people who don't really care for these scales that much. And that's why I decided to give these Applied Weapons Technology Archon scales a try. Like I said, good texture, good ergonomics. The knife feels really solid. You can't bend these scales. They're made out of aluminum. They don't have any flex in them. And the knife just feels a lot more solid and sturdy in your hand. Way better, way more ergonomical than with the Grivory scales. So the other thing I would say too is you feel a lot more confident really like doing harder cutting with this knife because the scales just feel better in your hands. As far as the swap goes, it was really easy. Honestly, if you've got some Weeha or decent Torx bits and you can take this knife apart and you've got some blue Loctite to Loctite some of the screws and the pivot screw back together once you get the knife back together, it came apart really, really easy. I mean, if you really wanted to, you could almost do this one side at a time. You could, take it apart and do one side at a time. I took the whole knife apart and just kind of cleaned it and relubed it. But it probably took me about 20 minutes or so to change the scales over, taking my time and re-Loctiting all the screws and checking the pivot on it. But like I said, I mean, the knife is so much different feeling. It looks and feels like a much more expensive knife now. I feel like it fixed the one thing about the Bugout that I've always disliked. Again, it is a little heavier now, but gosh, at 2.5 ounces, it's still a super light knife in your hand. Are there any issues or dislikes? So there are none so far. The funny thing with this is, like I said, the scales, in my opinion, correct the one deficiency that the Bugout has always had since it's been released. They're US made, they're a quality product. I've had them for over 6 months. I've carried the knife a lot. It's been in and out of my pocket. There's no wear and tear on the FDE. It hasn't worn off in any spots or anything like that. So durability wise and quality wise, I'm super happy. Everything lined up when I swapped the scales over perfect. There was no issues with fit or anything like that. So the only thing I would say that is sort of an issue or dislike is when you buy these scales, they're around $65. So depending on what you pay for the knife, you're going to have a knife that's somewhere around $200 or just a little shy of that. And, having to add scales to a knife to make it kind of what you want, that's not uncommon. But I feel like in this situation, that's right at the top of what I'd want to pay for a knife like this. Now the knife feels like it's worth that price point, but I had to go out and buy these scales and put them on myself. In summary, I'll just say this. This is a great upgrade. If you own a Bugout and you're not fully satisfied, or even a mini Bugout, and you're not fully satisfied with the way the scales and the handles feel and the balance of the knife, go to Applied Weapons Technology's website, check them out. They have some different styles. They have non-scallop, non-contoured ones as well. These right here are called the Archon, and they come in a bunch of different colors, different finishes, but they are a quality product, and they have turned my Bugout into a knife that I actually like to carry, and I tend to put in my pocket a lot more nowadays than I did over the stock one. There's really not a lot of differences ergos-wise as far as width. They're designed to be about the same width and generally speaking the same length, but you can see that there is just a little bit more back there in the back of the scale. It's a little longer on the bottom edge and a little rounded on the palm swell, and that feels really nice. But otherwise, folks, that's it. These are the AWT, Applied Weapons Technology, Archon scales on the Bugout by Benchmade. Highly recommend these. I can 100% recommend these scales as a upgrade to this knife. So there you go, folks. I hope you've enjoyed the video once again. And if you did, I'd hope you like and comment. Also consider subscribing to my channel for future notifications. And as always, folks, have a great day and stay sharp.